Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. It is October 29th, closing in on the end of October. Where did October go? We got rain yesterday. It rained all day, just a very light mist, but it did it for almost 24 hours. And so with that light mist, it did some good. You know, you get in some bare dirt if you can find any around here. I can't find any bare, which is good, I guess. I'm not complaining about that. But where you have any bare spots, it is a little muddy actually. So we're gonna take that. Finished up the fall calving cows, and we've got quite a bit of stockpile on this farm. This is Marshall's, the old fella that lived here pretty much his whole life. He came back from World War II, and in those days they had the GI Bill, and he served he was on a battleship. And Marshall never left this farm. He was born on this farm, and he passed away on this farm. Marshall made it to 94 years old. And I'll never forget Marshall talking about the battleship. They went over in the, they were in the Japanese theater over there. And he said, when I walked onto that battleship in San Diego Harbor, he was in the Navy, and Marshall said, I knew we were all gonna die. He said, there's no way anything that big, made out of steel, was gonna stay on top of water. He said, I just knew we were all gonna sink to the bottom of that ocean. So, Marshall was a character, man. Of course it didn't, but they did get hit. They got hit by what he called the kamikaze pilots, would take out the engines. And but you know, Marshall grew up poor, and he's like, you know, he said, we got 3 square meals a day. Even when we were at battle, when we were active battle, so we still got a sandwich. He said, I didn't get that at home. And so anyway, he made it through, came back, got married, and the GI Bill, he had enough money. Oh, calf's ball. He made enough money. He had enough money from the GI Bill to put a down payment on this farm. And he bought 8 cows. And that's what he built his herd from. And Marshall lived here and raised his family, or I think they ended up with 4 kids. And yeah, those are hard times. Very hard times. Marshall had some really old time stories about this farm, and you know, he'd take an axe in the summertime, the drought in 1936. It was actually his grandfather's farm, wasn't this one, but he'd go out and chop a tree down for each cow, an elm tree, and that's how he got through the drought, was feeding them trees. That's pretty tough going, folks. So every time I get in a really bad drought, I think I'm in a bad drought, I think about Marshall with that axe, chopping down a tree to feed his livestock. And growing up, they were so poor they didn't even have a milk cow. He said, Greg, we had no way to keep a cow through the winter because there wasn't any hay, wasn't any grass to speak of, and so they had a goat. They had a couple milk goats, and that's the milk they had. The goats could live on brush. And so yeah, today, you know, people walk in the store and get their food or their milk, and back in those days, there just wasn't the availability of that happening. If you didn't raise it, you couldn't afford to go buy it, so pretty much had to do without. There is some good grass. That's gamma. I'll be darned. That's a clump of gamma grass right there. Where did that come from? It must have came out of a bale that we unrolled or something. It's pretty cool. Cows are getting a good diet. This is Kentucky 31 fescue. It's the despised grass everybody hates because it has a lot of negative effects, or it can. It's got a toxin in it that restricts blood flow to the extremities of the animal, or it can if you don't graze it right. And we have enough diversity in here, and we've gotten rid of the cows that couldn't handle Kentucky 31. So that's part of it, just calling. Get rid of the cows that can't handle it and keep the ones that do and just move on. That's kind of how we've progressed in this. I guess, you know, the professionals tell you to spray it, get rid of it, and put something else down, what they call the novel in the fight. And, you know, if you want to do that, that's fine. It just costs a lot of money to do that, and there's no guarantee you're going to get a good stand of the novel. And now you got all that money wrapped up in it. You've already killed your farm because you sprayed it. You got to spray it. You got to spray all this and kill all this. Otherwise, if you put your novel in here, you're just wasting your money, because the endophyte will come in and take it right back. So you got to eliminate all the endophyte. Well, the other bad thing about it is, I'm in the deer. The other thing is, you've got to buy novel fescue, novel endophyte fescue in your hay. You can't go out here and buy Kentucky 31 hay and unroll it in your novel endophyte pasture. That's like shooting yourself in the foot, because you will have it back. You'll have the fescue, the Kentucky 31 will come right back. So anyway, there's just some management to it. You know, we have a lot more than just fescue in here. There's a lot of different species, and that's part of it, is just having the diversity. And there goes our crew, or one of them. They're going to set up the judge's farm. And yeah, we'll be moving there here in about 3 days. We'll be over there. So, folks, every day that you can feed your animals grass like this, people look at, oh, it's got some dead stuff here in it and such, but there's so much green in here. And the green is what has come on in the last 30 days because we didn't take it down real short. So we're gonna get around the farm anywhere from 5 to 6 times a year. So we're always moving. We're always keeping the animals on clean, rested grass. And that's how you keep animals looking like that. That's a spring calf. Nice little heifer calf sucking on that cow. She's doing a good job raising that calf. But anyway, on a sadder note, my Uncle Dan passed away last week, and he was 97 years old, and he was quite a fellow. Yeah, Dan, I don't know anybody that did more in their lifetime of different things than Dan did. He was unbelievable. And so we're gonna do that today. The family asked me to kind of, you know, talk about Dan's life. I'm actually gonna be kind of officiating the funeral, and he's gonna be buried next to my dad out here at Percy, and his uncle. My Uncle Scott. So next to his 2 brothers, which is kind of one of his wishes. I'm glad we were able to make that happen. But we have cousins coming in today from Illinois and such, and some from Alabama and just around the country. And Dan was one of these special guys. You don't meet very many people like Uncle Dan. And he was unbelievable how active that guy was. Clear up in his 80s, he was still racing horses. He was the one behind the cart actually racing horses. And I don't know anybody in their 80s that did that. But that's just how active the guy was. And he had a nice farm, Charolais cattle, and that was his love. He taught school for many years. He started a wrestling program. He was in Africa over Firestone rubber plantation, gathering latex from rubber trees. That's before we had synthetic rubber. He did that. And sold real estate. He was the president of about every organization in Columbia, it seemed like. He's just an active guy, And so, yeah, just kind of a tribute to my Uncle Dan. He was one of the best. Folks, you all have a good one, and we'll see you next time.